Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Henchman's Memoirs. This week on Encounter Design, we are taking a Mind Flayer encounter with a Mind Flayer Inquisition, and we are going to spice that encounter up like we do every week with dynamic terrain, relentless time pressure, and an intriguing twist on the monster's abilities. So I think Mind Flayers are a little bit hot right now. They were in Baldur's Gate 3, where you start off in one of their nautiloid sort of semi-organic ships. And you even spend some time in the Far Realm later in that adventure. They're also here in Phandelver and Below, the Shattered Obelisk adventure, where you go up against some Mind Flayers, and you even end up in this dungeon in the Far Realm that is made of a brain. You can see the interior walls are sort of shaped like brain matter, and you're moving around between the different hemispheres and lobes. So for the conclusion of one of my campaigns, I did a similar thing where I made this corrupted flesh terrain to represent the Mind Flayer's dwelling place on the Far Realm. And I set up this big final encounter, and the terrain here has sort of these blocking walls right here that are just to sort of add interest and give people cover and stuff. I describe these as kind of columns of sort of bone and gristle that just go from floor to ceiling in this room. And then I spiced up the terrain a little bit. I had this sort of evil well sort of thing, an evil altar, and you can pop in the interior there and show the tentacles coming from the far beyond. So we set that back here. I also had some little terrain of just some Mind Flayer looking statues, and we can set them in here to add interest. Had some Cthulhu statues, of course, got to add them, but they're not really doing anything in this encounter. What's doing the work of the interesting terrain feature in this, of course, I got my Mind Flayer Inquisition. An Inquisition in the old days was 3 Mind Flayers. So we've got them in here ready to go as the players enter over here. Let's go ahead and use Leibniz and Van Helsing. I'm sorry, Van Richten. And old Esmeralda here in the big final encounter of this campaign. They're coming in over here, and they're going to navigate through and come across this scene. So the time pressure, the relentless time pressure in this scene has to do with the villagers. In the original adventure, it's some villagers from Phandelver. What you want is, if you can, to give them a reason to care about these people that have been captured by the Mind Flayers, right? And when the party comes in, they're kind of in these sort of, you can kind of use the pods that they had in Baldur's Gate 3, or you can just have them sort of held down by tentacles to kind of platforms or little chairs or whatever. But you have a handful of NPCs that hopefully the characters reasonably well care about. And as the party comes in, the Mind Flayers are doing something to them that is draining their life force, and you can visibly see it being drained out of them and into this thing. If you want to get kind of body horror about it, their eyes are being like held open by the tentacles, and their mouths are being held open, and like you can see this vapor coming out that must be their life force. But you need to, in order for there to be legitimate time pressure here, you need to show exactly what is happening to these NPCs. So the two ways we could do it: either their life force is being drained away, and basically they're being forced to make a death save every round. And you have some dice out here, or you have a index card that shows their names and shows who has how many failures and how many successes. The other way to do it would be every round when you come around to your environmental effect, which I do on initiative count 10. When it comes around, you roll damage against, say, their intelligence or maybe their charisma, and so the party can see as their charisma is getting chipped away and their personhood is being sucked into this far realm, void thing, and the party can see how they're wasting away, right? This again really helps if you've already got the players invested in who these people are a little bit. Sometimes what I like to do is use the cast from a show that everybody knows and have them be the people who have been kidnapped. So I use the cast of Cheers, and it's like, oh no, not Coach, not Woody. Oh no, they're being drained away. So whatever you want to do, every round on an environmental effect, that happens. And so the party, besides just fighting, is trying to save these people before they get drained out. So the environmental effect, the problem is, the main sidekicks for Mind Flayers are these little guys, the Intellect Devourers. But by the time we're at the level where we can take on 3 Mind Flayers at once, it doesn't matter how many Intellect Devourers you try to put on the table. The party's just going to wipe them out with Spirit Guardians or something like that. So it helps if you have stats like from MCDM, you have the Brain Hulk stats. Maybe you can use some Moon Beast minis to represent those guys. If you don't have Flea Mortals, well, first of all, what are you waiting for? But if you don't have Flea Mortals, the Cranium Rat Swarm from Mordenkainen Presents is also pretty good at this level. They have some pretty good abilities, and they're not just going to get wiped out as quickly. So you can have a couple Cranium Rat Swarms to kind of back up your Mind Flayers. But what we're doing for the environmental effect is we're going to have cysts and polyps, because it's a nice gross description of something that can be here in this sort of fleshy dungeon, right? So you just have some cysts that are sticking up in different squares, and their whole deal is, instead of doing damage to the party, which we've done in 100 different encounters, they're actually buffing the Mind Flayers. And so they become a secondary objective for the players. They can either do like a warp space thing, where when you do a ranged attack against them, these guys just suck it away and send it into a random wall, like it's flying towards them, and suddenly there's a distortion in space, and then it's behind them and it hits the wall or something. You could do a thing where they're just straight up giving the Mind Flayers recharges on their abilities. You could do a thing where they're straight up giving them hit points. But the environmental thing is these cysts that the party needs to figure out. Do I want to focus on destroying them, or do I just want to try to keep chipping away at the Mind Flayer? So finally, we need a twist on the monster's abilities in order to fill out our trifecta of changes to every encounter. So the problem with Mind Flayers is most of their abilities, even the upgraded Mind Flayers in Mordenkainen Presents and the specialty Mind Flayers in the Shattered Obelisk, all of them inflict stunned, along with doing psychic damage. And stunned sucks. Stunned is the worst. It's terrible when the party monk is able to put it on our NPC boss, and it sucks when the players are stunned. I don't know about you, but my players come to the table to play D&D, not to sit around and watch the rest of us play D&D and see if they can save out of the stunned condition. So we need to get rid of that. The dazed condition, which I've talked about before on this channel, is a good substitute for that. But we're going to go ahead. We really want to lean into the Mind Flayer's otherworldliness. They're sort of bizarre sort of things that we haven't encountered before idness of their abilities. So I want to throw some things in, like when they attack, instead of stunning, they can steal your hit dice, your unspent hit dice, and actually immediately use them to heal themselves. So if you get hit with my Mind Blast ability, you need to make that save, but instead of being stunned, I can steal 2, 3, whatever you want to make, all of your unspent hit dice to heal myself. Another thing that could happen is if you fail to save, I can steal your highest level spell slot and turn around and cast a spell of that level, as my reaction or as my bonus action, something like that. So you lose the spell slot and I am immediately able to cast it for free if you fail that save from my Mind Blast. I like the idea of being able to steal inspiration from the characters. So literally heroic inspiration that they have where they have a reroll, you just take away their token if they fail that save. And now the Mind Flayer has inspiration. And finally, if they don't have any of those things, if they fail the save against the Mind Blast, they take the damage, and also I steal their reaction. And I can force them to make an attack or cast a cantrip or take the dash action, something like that. I steal their reaction and am immediately able to make them use their reaction for something that I want. So this is the basic layout of the Mind Flayer encounter. Those are the big 3 things that we're going to change to make it really memorable, dynamic, and engaging. Down in the comments, let us know if you give it a try. And tell us how it went. Give us a like and subscribe, and join us next time for the Henchman's Memoirs.